on a regular basis, and they are meeting and speaking about what is happening in their industry. So that way you can get book knowledge, and then suddenly you can start gaining experience from hearing and speaking to people. You start to understand the lingo and the terminologies. And there's human beings, you use the same terminology that they like to use, and suddenly they see you as, he knows what he's talking about. All you did was just learn the terminology. So those are little tips and tricks of what you can do to be able to immediately give yourself a timeline to get from not knowing to quickly get into that place. So I think the first one I said was diploma. I think certificate would be the easier thing because certificate is quicker, diploma is a bit longer. So anyway, so those are some of my thoughts on how to quickly do that.
Interesting. So diploma, you talked about Udemy, which is probably faster than diploma. You talked about like grabbing a dummy's guide. I think I'll just add one more thing to that, which is like Wikipedia. I had this approach of, Wikipedia to kind of learn about the subject. So let's think of a subject. Let's say the subject is about subsidized insurance, right? By the way, that's just a term I picked up yesterday as well.
You see, you see, it's so smart. He knows what he's talking about.
Right. And then you just kind of like read up like 10 paragraphs of that. And then by the time you're done with reading that, you probably have 100 questions, and then you can ask an expert, right? Or now going to the dummy's guide. So,
absolutely.
Like 5 minutes, then you kind of expand what you learn in 5 minutes to 10 minutes, 100 minutes, and then, the diploma, degree, PhD, or whatever. Thank you, Ayo. I think that was it.
YouTube as well is a great addition to that. If you go on YouTube, type it in, some expert somewhere is speaking about that topic. You'll be shocked what you can learn within an hour, being immersed in that environment.
Great. Thank you. Okay, so while you've kind of talked about these options, one thing I've noticed about folks is that there's this analysis paralysis when they want to learn stuff, where they start thinking about the time it takes, the costs, right? And then just not being assured as to who can help them, the best in terms of the knowledge, like, so let me come up with one topic that is like really trendy these days. Let's say Forex or cryptocurrency. Like, I don't know anything about this stuff, right? Where do I start from? And they spend like 7 days figuring out where to start from. While it can sound simple to you or to me, right? The whole idea of Money Big Converse is kind of break this thing down to folks, explain it like I'm 5, So how do you think one can avoid that analysis paralysis?
Well, I think the simple thing is just start. What are the things? In fact, you know what? It's even good that we're talking about this right here. I wrote this list probably about a year ago. What I want to learn about real estate. So I wanted to get into buying investment properties, and I wanted to just learn, what are the key areas, because some people wanted me to be able to help them and partner with them and invest in real estate. And I have my list here. I wrote down the things that I need to learn, and I have it right in front of me, so that as I go into my real estate, my wife is on the call, by the way. I'm sure she will laugh when she hears this. Now, there are many books that I've bought to keep increasing the knowledge, but this was where it started, writing the list down and having the topics that I'm like, you know what, I'm not sure about this area, so let me look at that. Or I go on Amazon, look for a book, you click on it, you scroll to the chapters, and then suddenly it's broken down. So if you want to learn cryptocurrency, click on a book about it, scroll to where the chapters are. Chapter 1 will say this, chapter 2 will say this. They've already broken it down for you.
So you're not buying the book, you're just kind of checking the chapter lists.
Exactly. And all you need to do at that point now is, like you say, go on Wikipedia, type in chapter 1, read on that. Go on YouTube, type in chapter 1, read on that. That's where this list came from, pulling into a book, pulling it out, and then going on YouTube. And literally within 2 hours, 3 hours, you have your list, you have your videos ready, save it as a playlist on YouTube. And then whenever you have that dedicated time, you just go through one after the other. Not every one of them will work for you. Some will make sense, some will not make sense. But you know what? You've known 20% more than you did before. And that 20%, the compounding effect just takes over from there.
Thank you very much, Ayo. It was good to talk about compounding effect because some people just don't really understand, how that 5 minutes or 5 points, become 10 points, 20 points, and then before you become an expert. But let me dig down deeper into, some of the challenges people face, talking about being an expert and, just knowing 5 things, about a really broad topic. Confidence is also something else, right? And you said something the other time, about knowing the terminology in a space. How useful is ability to practice your little knowledge, right? In developing the confidence. So maybe let me rephrase it this way. What are the best simple ways to quickly develop confidence about a particular space? Because, for example, in a job interview, right? So let's say I want to start a new job as an insurance salesperson, right? Which means, and I probably studied chemistry in Nigeria. I'm new here. I have just 2 months, and I'm going to apply for these jobs. And I really need to just show that I know a thing or two about insurance. What are the easiest ways to kind of gain confidence to show myself worthy at the interview stage?
So in reference to interview, I learned this great trick from my wife, I remember I was prepping for a role, and we will write down list of questions. So first of all, we'll write down all the job description, and they're going to ask a question for every job description that is on the, for every list that is on that job description or whatever. They're going to ask a particular question. So let's say the insurance thing, and the job description will say ability to be able to do underwriting, something. They're going to ask you, tell us about your experience, or can you tell me about a time when, so your job is look at that list, start to analyze and think of potential questions they will ask, put them all in note cards. This is what I did, put them all in note cards. And I remember as we would be driving from one place to another, my wife would just randomly pick a note card and just ask me. And my job was to talk and answer that question. There were some of them, she would say, that was terrible. Like, oh yeah, I'll try it again. Or she would say, bros now. Or she would say something like, okay, why don't you rephrase it or reword it this way? But I was shocked that by the time you now go for the interview, they're asking you the same set of questions. It might be worded differently, but it's still the same theme. And you already have ideas and stories and things in your mind. Now you can now talk confidently around those areas. So you have to practice to get ready. You know what I mean? And practice takes repetition. Now, I hated those sessions because, she's the expert, I'm the idiot at that point. Because I think it was just like, bros, you're going for this job and you're talking like this. I beg, man up, try it again. So you got to just keep practicing, have those note cards ready, have the list ready. But it starts with, go and look at job descriptions in that particular area you're talking of, and just look at the list, pull out potential questions from it. What are they going to ask me to know that I know this thing? And then what do I need to do between now and that interview? And what stories can I share with them? And you start to practice, and that's when you build your confidence. And oh, by the way, what kind of terminologies can I throw in the mix of the conversation, so that at the end of the day, they're like, okay, understands what that means. Okay, understands what people are assessing you on a lot of those things, if whether you like it or not. And by the way, when I worked in a retail company once, and I was in charge of recruiting, the number one question that the director always asked me, the first question he asked every time was, how was their communication skills? Number two was, were they confident? Okay, now let's talk about everything else. So he didn't ask about the technical details. He wanted ability to communicate. Was the person confident? Because if you're going to lead or manage a department of 10 people, 20 people, 30 people, or 100, or whatever it may be, the confidence has to be there, and the ability to communicate effectively has to also be there. And then we started to talk about the technical details. So those two skills are so key, like you're saying.
Communication and confidence. Confidence not being a skill, but being the attitude at that point in time, which can be developed by practicing and practicing. Thank you very much for that. In our last the episode before the last one, Money Converse, the first episode we had on jobs, we talked a lot about interview practicing, but more from the concept of doing a few interviews with companies that you don't necessarily desire to work with before doing the ones that you desire to work with. But this is a new angle. Even before you start even doing your interviews, practice with someone who can pretty much, help you develop that first level of confidence. Great one. Thanks, Ayo. Okay, talking about, sharing experiences and whatnot. Do you have any experience of where someone or someone you've coached has transformed from not knowing pretty much anything about a space to becoming an expert and getting a job in that space through some of the learning methods you shared? Is there one you can share with us?
Oh, I'm gonna have to think about this one. Someone that didn't know anything about the space, and then you're gonna have to come back to that one. Let me think through it as detailed as possible.
No worries, I can come back to it. And when I come back to it, it's going to be a double-edged question. Maybe the question would be, what's the best transformation story, right, that you've ever heard or seen or experienced? And then also, let's say a good story there, and then maybe another one where it could have been a good transformation story, but almost happened, but it did not, and what went wrong. Yeah. Fingers crossed.
Okay.
All that.
Yeah, let's come back to that. I'm gonna write some thoughts down on that one.
Cool. Okay, great. So now just for people to kind of know what's happening in the market today, I would say, can you talk us through some skills that are hot today that folks can learn and get jobs from? I know IT skills are hot, but I really love our conversation. You are a very strong IT enthusiast, but not exactly an IT engineer type of person, like myself, right? So I reckon you'll be more well-rounded in talking about even other areas that are hot, right? That that are, should I say, that where people can get a lot of jobs and can easily transform from pretty much doing one thing back in Nigeria or in their current lives, and then transform quickly to those. So can you talk us through that? And while you're talking about that, also give us a sense of what level of academic qualifications, right, would be required. Just high level. Is it a degree, right, no degree, just at that level?
Sounds good. So I would say that coming back to my background is in learning and development, management consulting, those areas. So I can give some background around those areas. I would say one key thing that I've heard of repeatedly is strategy. Organizations are constantly looking for people that can think strategically. Whether you are in the marketing departments, the HR departments, the IT departments, like, can this person turn this into a methodology that we can follow? Can this person build a strategy together? When I worked for a retail company, they were looking for, how do we develop a strategy to build our leaders? So that was something I needed to work on. So developing a skills matrix, developing a turnover strategy and a plan. So organizations are constantly looking for people that have that ability to be able to think strategically. So wherever you are now, I think that's something that you can do. And oh, by the way, just a quick suggestion I wanted to add and throw in there. Non-for-profits are constantly looking for people to volunteer. I'm on the board of a non-for-profits now, and I don't know how many times many people have joined the non-for-profits to do a project here and there just to support them, and it's an opportunity for them to be able to build a skill or to show a company that, hey, I did a 4-month project on strategic design, organizational design, or I did 4 months helping them put together a marketing plan, implementing the marketing plan. That's if you're applying for like a marketing job. So think of beyond your church or your local assembly or wherever it is that you meet and congregate with people like yourselves. What are some associations or some non-for-profits that you can join that are in search of the skills that you have, one, and then also that can help you put an American name on your resume so that when you present it, the Americans can look and say, oh, okay, that's nice. It's good to have that. Leadership is so big. People are constantly looking for leaders. There is a friend of mine, and I'm going to mention Canadian companies. I apologize for that. One of our big 5 banks here. He works for one of them, and he had a potential opportunity to get a management position, and he turned it down. He said, sorry, I don't know if it's all Nigerians here, so maybe you might need to translate this. It's like, I don't know how to work with Oyibo people yet, though. Give me time, So he turned down the job, which is probably like $30,000 more that I would have made. But he was like, my accent is still thick. I just arrived. Wait, I don't understand Oyibo people here. They can go and hit me now and turn it upside down for me. But that organization noticed some key leadership skills in him. And what do I mean by leadership skills? Taking initiative, having a vision. When you are sharing things, this is what I think. These are the pros, these are the cons. A lot of Nigerians, we know those things, but we are hesitant to share them. Not sure why. I've worked in organizations with other Nigerians and we're quiet. And I'm like, bro, talk now, say something. You know this thing. So we need to go back to that communication, that confidence to be able to show that. So leadership has a way of setting you up, to a whole different level. Another thing is another thing to think about is sa. Jews, I see your message, our culture of hierarchy. I hear that a lot of yes, I am, and the person will call God or you need to raise with at the same, you went to school at this place, I went to this place.
I was struggling to hear you.
So hear me?
Yes, you can go ahead. I think I can hear you better now.
Okay, strategy, leadership, ability to manage project management is that you can have awesome. That is always just love and yeah.
Hello, Aya, can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm struggling to hear you, and I'm not sure whether the delay is on my side. Okay.
And then okay. Thanks. Regularly, which jobs online. One thing, yes, and it's just part of getting thousands of people huge. I think 50% of the jobs that I've gotten in my life have all come through my network. And then if I have to do an interview, it's just part of like it's just part of just the fulfill all righteousness, I guess would be a best way to put it. So what associations can you join? Can you join Toastmasters, the Rotary Club in your neighborhood, in your area? Your church. Don't just stick with all the Nigerians. Go and mix and join other groups. That was something that my wife and I said to ourselves. We promised ourselves when we first arrived here, we're not just going to stick with the Nigerians, not because we don't like our people. We enjoy our time together and all that stuff, but get outside of that comfort zone and meet people outside of your network, because that's how your network is going to grow. And that person will introduce you to another person, and you'll be shocked at how far your network will grow over time. And then there's a third thing called paying letters. So Okpa is back. We'll talk about paying letters later on.
Please go ahead. Please go ahead. I'm loving the discussion, and there are a couple of things that you've talked about that are a bit controversial that I want to kind of dig deeper into. But yeah, go ahead with paying letters, please.
No worries. Let me quickly talk about network again. My first job in Canada, this is how I got it. I went out to play volleyball. I went on meetup.com. I went to play volleyball. We're playing with a bunch of people. I met a young lady there. She's a Nigerian. She said, oh, there's an event for Nigerians. We had just arrived in Canada probably a month before that. She invited me to a Nigerian event. I get to meet 30, 40 new Nigerians. We get to meet each other. I was talking to a guy that sat next to me, and he said, oh, my mentor is in management consulting. Why don't you spend time with him and meet and get advice on getting into the consulting industry in Canada? Thank you. I meet with the guy, Oyinbo guy. We're having a conversation. We're talking, and literally a week later, he sends me an email and says, oh, we are looking for someone to take a role. We've not put it up yet online. Would you be interested in the job? So I'm like, yeah, sure. And he said, okay, great. When would you like to start? Like, really? That was how I got my first position moving into Canada, was through network, and that came through meetup.com volleyball. So if you see how that worked out. So that was something I wanted to talk about for network. Now, going to paying letter, here's what I mean. I read a book by a lady, not read a book, sorry. I read a blog by her, and I did more research on her. And she talked about paying letters. And she said, look, I'm the director of HR at my company. It's hard to get through ATS, unfortunately. You need to find another way to get in front of the HR person. So she gave some suggestions. She's like, when you see a job opportunity for an organization, figure out who the person is. Figure out who the person is that is in charge of that role that you're applying for, and write them a letter or an email directly. And just talk about, hey, I understand the pain and I understand the issues when you don't have this position. I can help to fill that position, blah, 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 blah. I can send the link later on to what the blog was about. And I tried that when I was looking for a job, and 50% of the time I got an email directly from the hiring manager saying, send me your resume. So you have surpassed the ATS at that point, because your resume has gotten in front of the person that is making the decision. If you send your resume or pay letter to HR, they will not answer you. HR will say, go and apply. But if you look for that manager that is looking for that position, the manager could really care less about HR's, let me not say careless, but they're not necessarily worried about HR's direction on how they find the job. The manager wants a problem solved. So for them, it's, okay, this person has sent me their resume. I'm going to look at it. Let's schedule a quick meeting. And 50% of the time that I've tried that, it actually works. So I want to just throw that out there for everyone. I'll send that link to you later, or you can send to people that are interested, who are part of the Money Me family, for them to read that article. But it was a totally life-changing and changed my approach to job applications and things of the like.
Thanks for sharing that. Pen letters. It's actually the first time I'm hearing that phrase, but it makes a lot of sense. Focus on the person who feels the pain the most, and you're going to get the results. Nice. Yeah, some of the things you talked about, I said were like, a bit, you know, depending on who you talk to. When you talk about, making your name sound American, right?
Wait, I didn't say that though.
That okay, maybe I misheard you. I thought you were talking about when you did change your name from Okoyemi to Opi, so that everyone could understand. I was like, oh, did you just say that? Okay.
No, I did not say that.
Okay. And then the second one was sticking with Nigerians, right?
Mm.
I do. Okay, I guess maybe we can talk about that on another time. And
I
that
received
so we
heat
just
for
focus
that, by the
on the
way.
topic. You
I
said
received heat for that. Yeah, I've had people from my church group, people that I was close to, who are really offended by my approach to it. So I was part of um, a small group in a church that was very what's that word? Very diverse. And we just felt like, you know what, we can love our people, be with our people, visit our people, but let us expose ourselves to other groups. So my wife and I decided to go to another group and we co-led with some other people. So mostly whites and some other Spanish and different people were in that group. We got to meet amazing people. And then guess what? One of the first few people that put money into my wife's company came from that group. You know, my wife is part of another group that she joined, and one of the ladies there is a millionaire that she didn't even know that she was a millionaire. And the lady and I have been having conversations, and now she's found a mentor. I'm not saying that we don't have that within our group. Please don't get me wrong, and please don't shoot and throw things at me. No vex. But what I basically mean is when all you have is 10 people close to you, and you see the same 10 people every single day or every single week for quite a while, you're only exposed to those 10. But the minute an extra person is added to that mix, suddenly your network has expanded. So for me, I thought of it in terms of compounding effect. So if I only know 10, and then I expose myself to a new set of 10, suddenly now I know 20. And those 20 know 10 more people that I don't know. And by the time you start calling people and say, I need this, I need that, suddenly the person can say, let me link you up with this person. Let me link you up with that person. Very,
got you.
very, yeah, very, very simple logic. But I've been hated for this. I get a lot of he's a so never mind.
Yeah. I mean, thanks for clarifying that. I guess the key takeaway there is you're not saying discard your Nigerian community, right?
Mm-mm.
And switch that for a more diverse community. What you're saying is expand your community and expand your network, right? So
Expand your community. Be around people that make you feel uncomfortable because
exactly.
they
I
force
like the
you to
word.
grow.
Yeah, I like the word uncomfortable because I find out that sometimes when people talk about like staying with Nigerian community, staying with Nigerian community, is less of really wanting the Nigerian community, but less of fighting the things that would would get them to stretch themselves.
Mm-hmm.
For example, you have to comport yourself, you have to behave in a certain way, you have to try and learn new things, new communication skills, right?
Mm-hmm.
New ways of banter and whatnot. So thanks for clarifying that.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate that. Cool. So you've talked about skills, talked about strategy, you talked about leadership, right? And you also talked about like kind of opportunities. You mentioned nonprofits where you can volunteer and quickly get some skills. Let me just ask you this question: transferable skills versus non-transferable skills. Can you tell me which ones are more important? And please don't say they are equally important. I really need you to take a position there.
I would say transferable skills are more important. And funny, I've been in many conversations where sometimes organizations and people I talk to are looking for people outside of their space that can think outside the box. So I'm doing a project for school right now, and I'm doing it for it's called Canada Post, which is your version of United States Postal Service. So we're doing some consulting work for them. And they are looking, okay, they are looking for innovation. They are looking for tech. I don't have a background in tech. And I'm talking to people that are quote unquote in their innovation departments, and we are helping them stretch themselves in that area. All I am bringing to the forefront is just my little knowledge of technology, which is probably 1% of what it could, what yours is, and then also just strategy and exposing myself to different things. I've been able to pull it into the conversation and just bringing that into the picture because they're in it every single day. They can't see outside of their box, but someone being able to bring that in. So I would say non-transferable skills. Yes, it's essential, it's important, but that transferable skills, it is powerful. It is powerful.
Got you. Great, great. Thanks for sharing that. Transferable skills are really powerful. Okay, good. So Aya, you're a life coach, right? What do you think is the biggest hurdle to getting a good first job?
There are a few things. First of all, I would say, I don't want to call it facing reality, but that would be a big one. So in life coaching, one of the first things is, you talk about your goal. And then the next thing that you're taught in your methodology is what is the reality? So yes, I want to own my own private equity firm. But what's the reality? I don't know anything about finances, Like you have to be humble enough to identify the reality. So you apply for a job and someone has a resume that says Texas State University. Another person has a resume that says Babcock University, Babcock, or Zamfara State University. Face reality. The recruiter is going to look and pay more attention to the Texas one because it's something that they're exposed to, that they know. We are exposed to Babcock and we know, okay, yeah, it's a good university, but they have no idea what Babcock is. And they don't know whether it's a hut or a building. Unfortunately, I know you're laughing. Unfortunately, it takes us off, it pisses us off, but that is their reality. So one of the things that my wife and I agreed is, meet me first. I will sell you when you meet me. My job is to get you to meet me. Once you meet me, everything else is sorted out. You know what I mean? So I would say one of the things that holds people back from getting a job is you need to understand the realities while you look at your own resume. And you might need somebody objective that will tell you those realities. And you might be offended by that. Okpa is a very blunt person. I've known him for some time. You need people that can tell you the truth and say, Guy, if you said you raised this organization by $30,000, that doesn't mean anything in Canada. $30,000 is not a lot. But of course, when you convert it to Naira, it's millions and millions. But when you convert it to dollars, it's tiny money. That's budget for pizza, for some organizations for the year.
Freak, so you say you give us the percentage. Don't say $30,000.
Exactly. Exactly. Give the percentage. So you need to be able to look at the realities and find a way to, okay, how do I make this thing work for me? So reality is a big one. I think confidence as well. I would say for ladies, research shows that men apply for jobs they don't qualify for. They see 4 or 5 things. It looks like I can do it. So men think I can do it. Ladies are more, they read the entire thing and they will say, okay, based on all the things they're looking for, I can't do 40%, so I am not qualified. But more, the males are like, based on all the things they're looking for, I qualify for 40%, so I am good enough. Let's throw it out there by faith. So I think for the women, self-selecting can also harm. Sometimes when people put together job descriptions, they are looking for the best case scenario, and best case scenario might not, you can still be able to get through whatever that is. So it's something that you need to think about as well. Confidence and as I mentioned, facing reality and overcoming what the reality is with some strategies.
Got it. This what you said now about reality is very powerful. It's very powerful. I mean, I've seen too many tweets around. I saw a JD. Looks like these people are looking for an alien, right? what those folks are failing to realize is they're looking for an alien, but you might be that alien by just qualifying for 40% of what they've written in that job post. And funny enough, maybe all the recruiter is looking for is that person who has 40%, but is confident enough to say, I'm going to apply for this role, not the person who is complaining and saying, hey, that means the world has got nothing for me. You know, so thanks for mentioning that about reality. Good one. Okay, so let's get back to our transformation stories.
Yes.
What is the best transformation story you've heard or seen, and what's that one that almost happened but did not?
Okay, I'll give you so one example that comes up is now I'm going back to Nigeria on this one, unfortunately, not
Please.
US. I was a general manager at a media company in Nigeria, and one guy, he came and applied for a position, entry-level position at the organization, and we didn't have an opening. So somebody said, oh, God, can you please meet with this guy, kind of thing. So after the conversation, I'm like, I'm sorry, nice to meet you, but there's no opportunity right now. You know, that whole, if we have something, we'll let you know. He now said, sir, you know, I've been out of a job for 2-3 months. I need somewhere to go to be doing work. Just, do you mind if I come here every day and just work? Now, what the guy did not know is the department that he was looking to apply for, the head of the department had gone on leave for 1 month. He had gone on his regular annual, 1 month leave. So I'm like, okay, well, the guy said he will come every day. I'm like, I'm not giving you a job. There's no job opportunity. There's nothing, blah, 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 blah. So, okay, but if you want to do that, sure, come. And the guy came. And he worked for 2 months. He was the first person to show up, the last person to leave. He worked hard as anything, to the point that I went to HR and I said, we need to create a position for him. That was 5 years ago. As of last year, he is now the manager. He has basically taken over my job at that organization. And
Wow.
not only that, he is now a director in charge of 3 media areas and is responsible for implementing a strategy to bring more in across Nigeria. So this is a guy that literally 5 years ago came in entry level, did not have all the skills required, just said, look, I just need a place to go. But somehow, some way was able to just build himself, was very hungry. He wanted it, went for trainings, built himself up. And now if I ever return now, he'll be my Oga, I guess would be the best way to put it, And when I visited Nigeria last year, I was in the company. He was the one taking me on the tour. And Nigeria, yes, sir, welcome, sir. They were talking to him. And I was like, bros, you be sad now. I remember 5 years ago, you were just walking in with your slippers and just looking for a job opportunity. So, I mean, for me, just that hunger, that drive to be able to separate himself from everybody else and being able to transform himself from that entry-level personnel to what he became was just powerful, very, very powerful in my mind.
Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that. I also, let me just quickly share one before you share the one that almost happened. I think one of the, should I say, biggest ones that I know, I do have 2. One is going to be a guest on this show very soon. So I won't talk about that story yet. Still preparing it, right? It's going to be an explosive one. The other happens to be someone who has talked about this publicly at some point. Adewale Yusuf, my co-founder at Talent Kiro, right? Around 2010, Adewale was a security guard, right? And from being a security guard, picked up photography skills, then moved into blogging, built one of the biggest technology blogs in Africa, TechPoint. And from there, decided to build out a talent campus that will help train, talents and, export them. And that platform is called Talent Cure, and is not only built it to global acclaim. The company has also gotten into the Techstars accelerator in Toronto. So really huge transformation. just pretty much by getting skills, like you said, expanding his network from, from just being a security guard, and learning and learning and learning, and quickly applying those learnings, right, into boosting himself, even when nobody gave him a chance. To date, I used to laugh at him. I would tell him that you're still very, very rough. You still have security guard. But it's a sharp, great guy, right? Who, despite all odds, has shown himself that you can be anything you want to be, by taking charge of those opportunities and your life. So yes.
Story. So I have a story of one that's almost happened but didn't. This is a sad story, I would say, of a lady who was very promising at my previous job. And so when I was hired in a retail company. I was a coach, a leadership coach, and then also a trainer. So my job was delivering trainings for our staff members, but then also coaching a lot of the managers to help them in terms of behavioral coaching, helping them grow in different areas. One of the ladies, and it's very sad to say, she's not a Nigerian, by the way. She developed a reputation of sleeping around, I guess would be the best way to put it. I don't know the professional way of saying that. She developed that reputation, and somehow, some way, she held herself from promotions because she had gone around the organization a few times with different people. And I remember one of the directors.
Sorry, I hold that thought a bit. This is a very complex and sensitive topic. So they didn't promote her because they believe she had a reputation?
Well, we're recording this. Maybe I should not talk about this story then. Well, I would say she was known for being involved and not being ashamed of it. But you can't let go of someone for that, at the end of the day. It's not written in the HR policy that if you do this, we will fire you. The only thing that was in the policy was something around, fraternizing and things of
Was this
like.
Nigeria?
So, no, this is in Canada.
Okay, now this gets very interesting. I think this is a topic for another day. This is a full-blown topic, if you ask me.
But at the end of the day, she didn't give her the promotions that she rightfully deserved, because technically she was sound. She knew, technical sound. But one thing that came up regularly is, will the team respect her because of this reputation? And I try to work and coach her. I was asked to coach her through that. Now, keep in mind, I'm also a male, trying to coach this person through this. So I try to be as sensitive, as understanding, and we try to talk through things as possible. I even referred a book to her for her to read. Now she left that organization. She's moved to a different organization, and she sent me a thank you email about a year later after she had left that organization, basically saying now she sees some of those things that we talked about. Now, the thing about coaching is I don't have to say anything. I just ask questions. So a lot of what I do is just ask questions. But it was just quite unfortunate that that person was as good as a lot of the leaders in the organization, but there were some areas there were some deficiencies in her personality and behavior that held her back. Now, when we hear that story, we probably laugh and say, why is Aya sharing that story? Her story was different. For us, for you, it could be different. What is that deficiency that could be holding you back from that next level that could stunt your growth at the end of the day? Are you aware of them, and what are you doing about it? Because sometimes, because some companies don't want to be sued, they're not going to share some of those stories, or they're not going to come to you and say, we're not going to promote you because of this. So you need to find ways to figure out what your deficiency is that is holding you back from that development and growth.
Yeah, unfortunately, I feel very sad about that story, because I feel a lot different about whether that should have been an issue, but nonetheless, it was a reality at that time. Yeah. Okay, so let me just quickly share this as well. So I do know of someone who finished from a very good university in Nigeria, or fairly good, but yeah, I mean it's a university, and got the right opportunities early. Started working at a young startup that was doing like super well. Um, you know, but the biggest challenge was this guy gets very dissatisfied very quickly with a company, which is a good thing, by the way, if you can take that dissatisfaction to do more, right? But what he used to do was, rather than leave the company, join a better company, and keep on going, he had this penchant of burning bridges, right? So, and burning bridges would mean he probably would get a job today, he would not even resign, he just wouldn't show up tomorrow.
Wow.
Right. And I think he did that like 2 or 3 times. That the last one where he did it, he didn't even get a new job. He just kind of left, you know. Then, it was like, I'm going to try and do my own thing, right? And his own thing didn't quite pan out. Now, one of his, should I say, colleagues that started together back then is the founder of one of the startups that I was involved in back in the day, really doing great, a big fintech startup in Nigeria. While this guy can barely, make 50,000 naira a month. Now, it's
Wow.
a very sad story, very sad story, but had nothing to do with the skill of the guy. He just burnt too many bridges, always burning bridges. And goes at it violently. Like they can call him and they will start insulting them, that kind of level. And I think it just got difficult for him to be able to kind of curry favors and, use his network, because at that point in time, he pretty much had zero network, because of all the burning of the bridges.
Okay, let me quickly share this as well, if you don't mind. I remember when I was working at an organization when I first few years in Canada, I was offended that they would ask me, "Do you know how to use PowerPoint? Do you know how to use Excel?" I guess it's like, you're from Nigeria. We're not sure if you know these things. So, and my boss was just a very, she I think it was like expected not much at the end of the day, and saw things, and it just frustrated me. And I remember I used to lose my cool repeatedly, and we used to get into so many arguments. Um, then years later, I needed her for references. The next job, they don't ask you for references of other people. They ask for your direct boss that you used to report to be a reference. I'd say, I'm sorry for everything I've done. No, I need you for a reference. So that's why I asked that question earlier. What deficiency do you have, or do you, that could hinder and stunt your growth, that you don't even realize now, that could be bad in the future, like you shared with your story? That could have hindered me, and I needed to nip that in the bud, moving forward, or else my growth would have been stunted significantly.
Thank you very much for sharing that, Ayo. Someone commented, I'm seeing a couple of comments here, and someone just DM'd me and saying, "Why are you sharing my brother's story?"
Wow.
I don't know your brother, and I don't think this person is your brother. But just this person reaching out to me tells me how many people, right, would have been in this same kind of situation, that it even sounds very, very similar, even just on this call of just a few dozens of people, right? That goes a lot. I think maybe at some point we'll also have a different topic around talking about networking and around why burning bridges is definitely not okay. Yeah, we have 5 minutes to go, so I think we should just kind of jump into questions. I want to always make sure on our calls we answer all the questions folks need answers to. So the first question comes from Joke. Yeah. Does global certifications play a major role in your job search? Yeah.
May I say this, okay, in response to that answer, and I would love your thoughts as well. US is different from Canada, so I can give a Canadian perspective. There was a guy who I know, I'm very close to, who has a master's from the United States of lovely America, and he couldn't find a job for over a year plus until he did a certification in Canada. That's when he started to get job calls. He did not get a call, even though he had a master's in that field from the US. So I don't know how it is in the US, but here in Canada, they're very pro-Canadian in what they do. So what I usually advise people is once you arrive or you land, even before you leave Nigeria, as a matter of fact, try to find something. University of Toronto and a few of all those places, they provide a lot of those certifications online that you can get done quickly within 3-4 months. So that's what I usually advise people. Global certification is great, but in some countries, they want their own before the global one. But your thoughts on US? Okay.
Cool. So for the US, global certifications can get you a foot in the door from a resume point of view, and also from a, should I say, LinkedIn search point of view, right? Because all of these recruiters, they are all crawling LinkedIn, looking for people that have certifications in some areas, as they are like keywords that they use to search, right? So definitely that can help. But beyond it's just been keywords, right, to search, it doesn't go beyond that. If you reach out directly to recruiters, or if you have keywords but not necessarily that certificate that's like as similar in your profile, they definitely can help you as well. Of course, I have mentioned it, I've mentioned it also in the past. Direct networking, direct referrals, right, always beats and takes you far beyond all that obstacle where global certification would be required. I don't think the certification will be what makes them to take you or not take you. But just like anything in life, increasing your chances by all means possible, as long as they're legal, is the right thing to do. So getting a global certification is good as long as it increases your chances, even if it's just by 2-3%. Cool. So there's another question here, which let's try and quickly go for this. Tutu asks, how does accent play out? For people like me who, you can take the boy out of the village, but you can't take the village out of the boy, kind of thing. What do you have to say? How much does accent play out in getting a job? And should one do anything about it? And if yes, how?
That's a tough one. That's a tough one. I think everybody should keep their accents. We are entering a new wave in the history of, I would say, so Nigerians moving to US, there was the 1980s wave, there was the early 90s, there was running from Abacha wave, and then now there's this new wave with the Buhari administration type thing. So a lot more organizations are going to be exposed to a lot more Nigerians over time, and they're going to become more comfortable with it. So we're not changing anything for anybody. Don't change your name. They will be more comfortable with it as time goes on. I think it's just a matter of how long. And if you are qualified enough, if you are good enough, they will learn your name. Don't worry about that or your accents. I went to secondary school and university in the US before I went back to Nigeria. So I was in US for 13 years. And then I came to Nigeria in 2009. And then I came to Canada after that. So I think that's why it's easy for me to be able to switch from one accent to the other. But my wife is very thick in her accent, and she could care less what other people think. Her accent is her accent, and once you have the confidence, the competence, and you should be fine.
I agree completely. I can't even switch even if I wanted to, right? And yeah, people get to understand you over time. And I think the only thing you can do is meet them in the middle, especially around your pronunciation. Get better with your pronunciation, right? And aside that, your name is your name. Keep it, and you do fine. There's a question here. I'll just quickly take it because of time. Did you deal with fear when you first relocated, like second guess yourself? how did you overcome it? I'm not sure I'm the right person to answer this question because I tend to have, should I say, a kind of confidence that is a bit abnormal, you know. But
Okay,
that
I
being
would
said,
say if there was one thing that I've learned from you that's you've rubbed off on me is confidence. Like Okpa is like 5'5" but he walks like he's 6'10". Walks into a room and he's like, "I'm the tech guru. You must know me." And honestly, confidence demands attention, and you need to just find a way to fake it till you have it. Fake it. Walk into a room, look people dead in the eye, shake them, say what you want to say, and be as confident as possible. Or in both to be like, this one is different though, that kind of thing. But like you're saying, confidence is big. It plays a key role. And I think you need to just find a way to build it, to develop it, and to walk into a room like you own the room.
thank you very much, Ayo. So yes, maybe I second guess myself just a bit, but I think the couple of tips that I kind of use to boost my confidence in all times is when I take decisions, I not just think through them very quickly. I actually talk to a lot of people and then I ask myself, what is the worst case scenario? So by knowing what the worst case scenario, it kind of makes it easy for me to make a decision. Most people think about worst case scenarios in decision making as if it were life decision, it were going to, end their life or something. So like, for example, for me, quitting a job is not a very big life decision in that sense, because I'm like, the same way you read, studied, and applied for one, the same way you can read and study and apply for the other. Maybe it will take you 2 to 3 months, which means if you're going to quit your job, have at least 2 or 3 months pay, right? Or you have a spouse that can support you. That's how I think about it. And that way I can make a decision about that kind of thing in 5 minutes, right? Mm-hmm. Some folks will stay 1 year trying to make a decision on when the decision itself is a 3 month decision, right? And it's because I'm properly able to assess what the worst case scenario, right, looks like, and I do that by I do a lot of calculations anyway in my head, and also I talk to a lot of people. When I talk to people, I seek pointers, I seek insights, not necessarily instructions. So when I want to make a decision, I probably will talk to 5 people. And why I love doing that is I've always noticed that 5 people are going to tell you 5 different things, which makes it more exciting, right? And you know that your own decision matters the most, not what the 5 people think. You have to look for the insights, the gems in what all of them have said, right? And put everything together, and then go ahead and make your own decision. So one last question before we call it a day, we're already past time. Someone asked a question around, is discrimination a negative factor for people of color during job interviews? And I think someone has answered the question here. Jules say, Joke, my own experience with job interviews is most of the discrimination is at the cold resume stage. That's correct. If you get invited to an interview, you are usually going to be assessed on ability and personality as opposed to other discriminatory factors. This is very correct. As much as the world looks discriminatory, most people are just being real. They know what they know and they don't know what they don't know, right? Exactly. When you see a resume, there's very little you can make of a resume, and folks are not necessarily open-minded. So a name confuses them. Okoyemi is too long, they don't understand it, and they already are thinking about how they're going to call that name if they hired Okoyemi. They are seeing a university and they cannot make sense of what this university means, or whether it's like I said the other day, art or a skyscraper. They are seeing a company and they don't get a sense of how big or small that company is, right? Mm-hmm. But then once you can skip all of that, most folks would be genuine enough to kind of assess you on what they are looking at the interview stage. And a tip, in some companies where they're trying to kind of fill diversity quota, right, they might even, be expecting less. And when you show them that you're actually the smartest person on the block, and you're even better than all the other folks they've interviewed, they are so super surprised that they can't wait to have you join their organization. And that's what I've seen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I agree with that.
Great. I hope everyone has learned a thing or two. We've seen that in our Money Convos, the job sessions tend to be the one where most folks are interested in. So We will definitely continue this. Thank you, Aditi, for clapping. I love that. We'll definitely continue this and hope we touch more lives. Please go ahead, ask your questions via email or via any of the of our groups on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Telegram. And if there's a topic you think we should discuss more in detail, please feel free to also shoot them via any of those groups, and we'll be more than happy to take the most popular topics and bring the guests on board. Ayo, thank you very, very much. You've always been a friend, inspiration, for more than a decade, and continue to be one. Thank you very much for doing this and for sharing your gifts with others on this call. Thank you, everyone, for attending. Thank you for your questions, and do have a great night.